Creating a new QAcraft project. The top menu, Create QAcraft project, opens a window that shows us what type of issue types will be included in our project. Bug, test case, test suite, story, and what will be the workflow for all issue types that will be created here. The most important thing to define, the name and the unique project key.
Jakiś klucz projektu unikalny.
After approving the changes, a new project appears in QAcraft, which is basically a standard Jira project with predefined issue types that make up the QAcraft structure, so we can start creating our structure from there.
Czyli tak naprawdę od tego momentu możemy zacząć tworzenie naszej struktury.
Right now, I will create a few requirements for the test.
I w tym momencie tworzymy ostatnie wymaganie. Numer 5.
We will give these requirements the lowest priority so that each of the available priorities is assigned to each of the requirements. Now, when we look at our project, we can see that there are 5 requirements created in it. These are story objects. At this point, we can start creating the QAcraft structure. Some sample tests. This requirement creation operation is optional. Requirements may be attached to the QAcraft structure, but they do not have to. Okay, let's start building our structure from scratch. Parent of the entire QAcraft structure is test plan.
Całej struktury QAcraft jest test plan.
In fact, it is enough to provide its summary. It is the only mandatory data that will make test plan bet correctly. Of course, you can give this particular issue features typical for a test plan. In example, add attachments, documentation. You can immediately link it with other issues in Jira. You can add a description. For the purposes of our presentation, we need only summary. When we go to the test plan, we can see that it is empty. It has no data in it. Because we just created it. However, some things that are specific to the test plan, some sections on its page are already appearing. The next step will be to create a sub-issue type for the test plan, which is the test suite. These created test suites should appear in the general metrics table. To create a test suite, we can do it with the normal create option and then combine it with the test plan. You can create it in a more convenient way. Use the create test suite functionality directly from the test plan level. This will open the test suite creation window. I will call it, for example, Test Suite 1. The same applies to test plan. The only required field is summary, which is the short name of our test suite, and all other fields are optional.
W tym momencie
At this point, after refreshing our test plan, you can already see the first test suite appearing.
pierwszą test suite. W tej chwili możemy
Now we will create more to fill it with more test suites and we will move on to creating test cases.
do tworzenia przypadków testowych. Pojawiła się druga test suite.
The second test suite has appeared. We will create one more.
I po odświeżeniu
After refreshing, we can see that our test plan consists of 3 test suites.
tu widzę pewną
Here we have a nomenclature inconsistency, a small fix.
drobna korekta. W tej chwili już
At the moment, we have all test suites created. We can go to the first test suite and start creating test cases.
test suite'a,
The test suite is structured similarly to the test plan.
test plan ma obiekt,
It has a facility that showcases the test metrics of what is going on from that test suite down the structure.
strukturze. Tu jeszcze nie
We have not created any test cases, so the tables with metrics are empty.
metrykami są puste. Widać natomiast już pewnego
You can see some kind of relationship between objects. You can see from the test suite that this belongs to this particular test plan.
tego
This can be seen in 2 places. The test plan field in details
planu w detailsach oraz QA.
and in the QA-Craft tree view, which shows us where we are in our structure.
Mniej więcej w naszej strukturze jesteśmy. Czyli po kolei
In sequence, we are in a QA-Craft presentation project. There is test plan 001 in it, and in this test plan there is the test suite that we see on the screen.
którą w tej chwili widzimy na ekranie. Podobny
A similar case as when creating the test suite. If we want to create an object lower in the hierarchy from the test suite level,
obiekt niżej w hierarchii używamy przycisku
use the Create Test Case button.
w tym momencie. Po podaniu nazwy
After giving the name of this test case, defining its priority, assigning it to the tester, describing the test environment, determining
mają się zadziać test ustalenia ewentualnego
the software version we are testing.
testujemy.
We create such a specific test case. After refreshing, it is in the table.
Widać pierwszy
We see the first test case.
nie jest jeszcze do nikogo
Draft status not assigned to anyone yet.
wykonany przed chwilą.
Not done in any way, just created. For the purposes of testing, we will create a few test cases.
Testowych, dodatkowych. Tworzymy ostatni przykładowy test.
We create the last sample test case.
W tym przypadku będzie
In this case, it will be the 6th.
odświeżamy widok
We refresh the test suite view.
naszego testu
We see a list of test cases from the 1st to the 6th.
od pierwszego do szóstego. Teraz tak, to projektowanie
Designing test cases was just the beginning.
stworzyliśmy.
We have created blank test cases.
Każdy z nich
In fact, each of them should have a list of steps, or a list of initial conditions needed to execute each test case.
potrzebnych do wykonania danego przypadku testowego i tak dalej. Aby utworzyć kroki naszego
To
przypadku,
create the steps for our test case, click Edit Steps. Add a new step
jakąś akcję.
and enter any action needed to perform.
Krótki opis.
short description.
W input podajemy
In input, we provide any data that is needed to log into the application.
logowania się do aplikacji. Oczywiście wszystkie te pola są
Of course, all of these fields are optional. Values may or may not be given here. Expected result, which is what we expect.
i ewentualnie nowy krok.
Possibly a new step, add step.
I jeszcze
And one more.
tu celowo
Here I have deliberately mistaken the sequence of steps to show how easily you can organize this list of steps as expected using the drag and drop method.
porównaniami. Czyli mamy
So we have our first step, second step, third step. If the list of steps or its addition is complete, we save the changes and from now on we have a test case with our list of steps.
naszą listą kroków. Jeżeli ta lista kroków jest
If this step list will be used in other test cases, it is worth exporting it to a CSV file.
warto ją wyeksportować do pliku CSV i w kolejnym przypadku
In the next test case, using the import mechanism, we can import a list of steps.
z pomocy mechanizmu import zaimportować listę kroków. Wróćmy do
Let's go back to our test suite. In the steps progress column and in the progress bar that appears, we can see that this particular test case has a defined list of steps.
nasz konkretny przypadek testowy ma zdefiniowaną listę kroków. Przejdźmy zatem do
So let's move on to the second test case. Here we can import the step list exported a moment ago. As you can see, the steps appeared immediately. If the list of steps needed to be expanded, we can add a new step here at any time.
nowy krok, powiedzmy czwarty. I zapis.
Save changes.
Mamy 4 kroki.
We have 4 steps. Let's move on to the next test cases and fill them with steps.
Przed tym razem już szybciej.
This time faster. Predefined list of steps from real test cases.
Kroków z rzeczywistych przypadków testowych. Widzimy 4 kroki.
We see 4 steps filled with data. The actual case.
Rzeczywisty przypadek. I kolejny test.
Another test case,
Import.
import, and another one until the end.
I kolejny. Tak aż do końca. Mamy zdefiniowane
We
kroki
have defined steps in our test suite for each test case.
dla każdego przypadku testowego. Co możemy zrobić w tej chwili?
What can we do right now? We created some sample requirements before. So now is a good time to associate our structure, our test case, with requirements that exist somewhere in the same project.
Gdzieś istnieją w tym samym projekcie. W jaki sposób możemy
How can we do this?
teraz do test planu?
I will now go back to the test plan.
W test planie możemy zaobserwować, co się wydarzyło
In the test plan, we can see at the bottom of our structure, you can see that we have handled one test suite.
przypadków testowych.
In this test suite, we have 6 test cases, 6 still not executed because we just created them.
W fazie projektowania
We were in the so-called test design phase. We haven't assigned them to anyone yet. We haven't done them in any way. We have not linked them to our requirements, so the column that shows us how many requirements are associated with our test cases is blank.
dobrze.
Okay,
Przejdźmy w takim
Let's move on to the requirements selection then. This is the QA-Craft requirements section. The Select Requirements button, it opens a window in which we have everything that QA-Craft treats as a requirement in any Jira project. We need to find our project here. This is the one, QA-Craft presentation. Let's check what we have in it. We have 5 previously created requirements. If we need all 5, we select all the higher ones. And after saving the changes at this point, our requirements have been associated with the test plan, and we can start tracking the coverage of requirements with tests. Where will we see it? In metrics at the test plan level and at the level of individual test suite. In the Test Coverage Metrics panel. Here we see our list of 5 requirements, which are currently displayed in red, as none of those requirements are yet associated with a specific test case. If we start to combine test cases with requirements, the presentation of individual requirements will change color to black, which automatically means that they have been handled by at least one test case. The requirements are linked to the test plan, so it is a good time to associate them with our test cases. This can be done in several ways. The easiest way is to enter a specific test case and select the Add Requirement option from the menu. Here we can choose a flag, which we set to Yes, if we want to select requirements only from the current structure. As a result, the search engine speed increases. If we search only in our project, the search is fast. As you can see, I already have all my 5 requirements. I choose the first requirements from our list, link it to the first test case, and at this point I associate the test case with a specific requirement. You can see it here. A story field has appeared in the Detailed section, which indicates a specific requirement that is linked to a specific test case. It is clickable, so if we now click on the label of our requirement, we are automatically transferred to this particular story, where we can see the relationship between the test case just connected. Let's go back to the test case and go back to test suite and associate the remaining test cases with our requirements. Here you can already see in the metric table that this particular test case 001, has been associated with a requirement with such a key. The others haven't been put together yet, so here we go. Second test case. We add requirement from the current structure. The search can be done by name, by the summary of this requirement, or by key. I remember summary, so it's a bit faster in this case. Apart from that, all summary are unified, so entering the first 2 characters finds all the previously created requirements. Another third case. Let's combine it with the third requirement and so on. Let's do them for the next add requirement. and the fifth. We will leave one without requirement, or we will attach the same requirement to two test cases. Maybe it will be better. Okay, add requirement, and we add the last requirement. So let's move on to our test plan and see what happened. At the test plan level, you can already see in the row at our test suite level that this test suite consists of 6 test cases, and these 6 test cases have been associated with 5 requirements. The previously presented coverage metrics tab have already turned from red to black. At this point, you can see that all requirements have been covered by at least one test case. If there was a requirement here, it would still be displayed under red. Okay, then let's move on to the General Metrics tab. We are at the test plan level. At the moment, I was presenting the navigation, which consisted in fact that while entering the structure, we clicked on issue type, the ID of individual objects in our tables. Clicking causes you to go down the structure, down again. However, I went up using QACraft navigation, which shows us how our structure is built. Being at the level of the test case, we can go back one level by clicking on this particular object. There is a simpler tree view method that shows us how our structure is built. Here we have a navigator in the form of a tree, and we can freely switch between any elements of our structure, which are immediately displayed in the main window. Well, now, going further with our structure, we can try to assign it to the specific testers. This can be done using the standard Jira mechanism. Enter each test case and set the tester to handle this specific test case in the assignee field. We can do it from the test suite level, from this table. If we click any field in the assignee column, we can choose one of our testers. Let's say we give that to these 3 testers. And now in order. For the first tester, then for the second tester, and now for the third tester. Our test cases, all 6, have already been assigned to specific testers. The tasks that need to be performed will appear on the list of their tasks. Everything has been done, test cases assumed, test cases steps defined, requirements linked to our test plan, requirements have been associated with specific test cases. We can start running our tests right now. Maybe I will play one of our testers and try all the 6 test cases that we have defined. I will try to perform each of them in a slightly different way. First test case. Let us assume that we will do it step by step. Here, in the status column, you can select the status for each test step. Let's assume that we have successfully completed this particular step. This can be seen immediately in the steps progress bars. 33% of our test cases have been successfully completed, 67% are still unfinished.
ciągle niewykonanych. Powiedzmy, że
We will mark all 3 on passed, and at this point, if the list of steps has been completed,
jeżeli lista kroków została wykonana, wszystkie kroki zostały
all steps have been marked as passed, failed, blocked, etc.
dalej pojawia się
An automatic reply appears saying that all steps have been completed,
wszystkie kroki zostały wykonane. Zadaję pytanie, czy
which asks if we want to close our test case.
przypadek testowy. Test result.
We fill in the test result and test case resolution. After filling in these fields, our test case is closed. In this particular case, with the result passed. Let's try to go back to the test suite.
Zobaczmy, jak to wygląda. Na poziomie test
At the test suite level, it is clear that the first test case was successfully completed. Let's move up to the test level of our test plan and see what happens in the metrics.
co tam się dzieje w metrykach.
You can see that in the first test suite, one of the 6 test cases was passed. This progress bar in the test progress column shows us how the test cases in the test suite looks like.
Wygląda realizacja test case'ów znajdujących się w danej test suite.
1 in 6 taken on passed, which is 1/6 of the progress bar has turned green.
kolor na zielony. To pojedźmy dalej po naszych.
Let's check the next test cases.
Weźmy sobie teraz.
Let's take the second now.
Zobaczmy, że
Let us assume that we perform it similarly to the first one. In example, we go to the certain step. We did 2 on passed, and the last one is failed.
I ostatni mamy do wykonania, powiedzmy, na failed. Następnego nie
We won't do the next one, because that's where we stopped. What can we do? First, we can try to close this test case with a failed result, or we can report the bug to that particular test case. The order doesn't matter here.
konkretnego przypadku testowego. Zgłośmy błąd.
Let's report the bug. Let's give it some priority. Let's say it is high and created.
I stwórzmy. OK. Po odświeżeniu przypadku testowego
After refreshing the test case, you will notice that there is a bug that is attached to this specific test case.
błąd, który jest podpięty pod ten konkretny przypadek testowy. Jeżeli sobie wejdziemy
If we go into this bug,
w błędu,
we see the opposite relationship.
relację, czyli błąd jest skojarzony
The bug is associated with this particular case. Both are links that allows us to easily navigate between one object and the other.
z tym obiektem. Co teraz nam
What is left for us now?
Zaznaczyliśmy
We marked the 3 steps are completed.
błąd pod
We linked the bug to a specific test case. We are closing the test case.
Tutaj
Here we should describe what really went wrong. And here we give the test case resolution as failed.
Test case resolution
Test case resolution failed. The test case was closed.
test suite.
Let's move on to the test suite. 2 test cases completed.
Past jeden z wynikiem
1 passed and 1 failed. Going up to the test plan, we see that this time 2 of 6 is already marked.
Tym razem 2/6 mamy już zaznaczone.
1 of 3 in green and red.
Zielone
2 of the 6 test cases were performed.
z 6 zostały wykonane. Mamy też istnieje też kilka
There are several mechanisms that allow you to automatically execute the steps of our test cases.
przypadków testowych. Przykładowo, jeżeli
For example, if you want to mark all steps with passed or failed,
na failed, wybierając odpowiednią
selecting the appropriate function from the menu above the steps. We marked all on passed. Our test case is now complete.
Przejdźmy do kolejnego.
Let's move on to the new test case. This time let's try to mark everything failed. Four test cases have been performed. The other two will be left open. Let's see what happened.
Co się wydarzyło?
As you can see, 4 cases completed, alternately passed, failed. 2 cases not executed, status known. We will see this is at the test suite level. Here, at the test suite level, you can also see information. If bugs have been made for the test case, we have information on how many bugs have been created and whether these bugs are still open. We just put it on. No one picked it up and thus the bug is still open. Going up. An analogous situation is presented at the test plan metrics table. Here we see our record in our test suite. 2 test cases made. Passed, 2 failed, 1 bug reported, 1 still open, 5 connected requirements.